After a long period of gestation in U.S. think tanks, military research facilities, and university engineering departments, in 1973, international satellite links began to transform what had begun as a national experiment in packet switching into the ubiquitous global system we now know as the Internet. On the Internet, names have been used from the very beginning. They permitted users to type FTP UUNet rather than FTP in a long numeric address to contact other hosts on the network. In the early days, each host had its own list of names, and often different hosts used different names to refer to the same host address. This became a problem as the network grew beyond a few dozen hosts. Administrators realized that they needed to standardize on a single list. They developed a file format for naming hosts. The file itself was called hosts.txt, and was managed by the Stanford Research Institute's Network Information Center, which distributed it to the other hosts on the network. However, this system did not scale, and it was not dynamically updated. In 1983, Paul Maka-Petras came up with an original idea to build a distributed, dynamic name-to-address resolution system to replace the static hosts.txt file. Together with Jon Postel, the Internet Protocol architect at SAR, Paul started work on the first implementation of the DNS, the Domain Name System, a decentralized distributed database for all Internet hosts. The inner workings of the DNS, resolving name queries and translating them into unique numeric addresses, is almost invisible to users. But this does not diminish the fact that DNS is one of the most important technologies underpinning many other applications such as email and web that explains the success and exponential growth of the Internet. Building on Maka-Petras' architecture, Jon Postel single-handedly managed the growth of the domain name system for 15 years until his untimely death in 1998. During that period, he assigned country codes to some 200 countries. Postel looked ahead to giving this work to others. A first domain name registration fee was introduced in September 1995. Today, the domain name industry is worth a few billion pounds a year.
Pronto?
Hello? Is that Professor Simeoni? Could you please tell me the number of your web address?
My website, the number
Yes.
is 131.114.19.0.24.
Great.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
As a first step in 1989, the IANA was established to formally deal with the growth of the net, the allocation of IP addresses, country code management, and port numbers. In 1992, we see the beginnings of the privatization of the DNS functions when the National Science Foundation awards a 5-year contract to Network Solutions Internet to manage .com, .net, and .org. In 1996, IANA was a member of the Internet Ad Hoc Committee, which was formed to establish global registries and international top-level domain names. The Internet domain name wars had begun. Later in 1998, the Department of Commerce signed a memorandum of understanding with ICANN, a California nonprofit corporation, to transition technical DNS coordination and management functions to the private sector. Its organizational structure consists of its board, staff, supporting organizations, each with its various constituencies and councils, advisory committees, security, government, and at-large advisory committees, and many ad hoc standing committees. Some say that ICANN's process is too politicized, but it's not always clear what this criticism means. ICANN is charged with the task of balancing the interests of different stakeholders, which include private sector, non-for-profits, sovereign country states, and individuals in matters of technical coordination of the domain name system. People have the illusion that technical problems are independent of politics. Is ICANN gridlock technical or political? The answer is yes. Since the birthplace of the Internet was an English-speaking country, the namespace was originally limited to alphanumeric characters. Today, the Internet community is facing a new challenge, the introduction of internationalized domain names, which will allow Internet users to use characters and hence words in domain name registrations in non-ASCII character sets. Some have expressed concern that IDNs will lead to the balkanization of the net. Suggesting a kind of disintegration or devolution from a single common reference to a state of mutual incomprehensibility and potential conflict. Will IDNs lead to balkanization? Perhaps a better term for this transformation would be Babelization. So I've been asked to say a word or two about domain names. To me, it's not very important. It's like street names. You live on a certain street, well, it has a name. You can try to go to City Hall and get them to change that name, but don't you have something better to do with your time? Now, of course, everybody would like to have the name of their choice, because it's also kind of advertising. Jon Postel did not expect that he was creating real estate that people would be paying for. And in a sense, there's nothing more political than names, because what you call a thing determines what people think about it. But then, here we have ICANN. You see, there's ICANN. There's nothing technical about ICANN. It's entirely political, because you could do this name mapping business by any number of different technical mechanisms, provided the browser could interpret them, right? So here is ICANN whiffling and having its exciting times, but as someone once said in another context, people are so emotional about the issues because the stakes are so low.